Okay, let's have a report from the assessor. Oh, he's not here. Mr. Burns, anything from you?
No additional, yes, sir.
Okay. I want you to work on that value of risk analysis that you were doing as well. Okay, just to make sure the numbers. Honorable Mr. Mecca.
Yes.
Does any of that make sense to you, Mr. Mecca?
Yes, but, well, it all makes sense. The only problem is the law. That's the problem.
Markowitz won't be here next week, he's on vacation, so can someone else present?
No, that'll be next month.
Next month, yeah.
Is the
Honorable
application next month?
Supervisor Crawford, honorable members of the town council, Nicholas Mecca, 45 Alto Avenue, Port Chester.
Excuse me, hold on, pardon me, Mr. Mecca. When did you leave on vacation?
14th.
The 14th, if I recall, I sent you guys the email.
Okay, before he leaves on vacation, I want a full-fledged report that we will either videotape, and then put it to the public.
We can call a special meeting if you wish.
Why don't we just go for the August meeting? It's
No,
only
no,
30
no,
seconds.
no.
This is why.
I'm not just gonna change it so you slide on.
No. That's the government way of doing things.
So I'm
No
just
way.
saying,
If you want to go, we can.
I think we want him to be here and
If you want
answer
to change
questions.
the timing of the next
This is
meeting,
important.
I'm happy to.
We can just call a special meeting.
Especially
The second meeting for the month of July.
Perfect.
You know, the way I.
Or, yeah, or you move the meeting to when he'll be back. That's another option.
No,
The meeting's
no.
July 17th.
Listen, I'm not gonna move the town meeting around the assessor, okay, first of all. And second of all, we're very patient, but, I mean, enough's enough already. I mean, we have an assessor. He works for first of all, he works for the taxpayers of the town of Rye, okay? And he should be in a position to respond to us, okay, who are working for the taxpayers of the town of Rye for information. Now, if he doesn't give us this information in a timely fashion, okay, there's a lot of information we've been asking for over the years, and this isn't rocket science, okay, but he should be able to provide that to us. We were told that after the tax season, after this season, well, the season's over with now. And Mr. Supervisor Carvin, make the request to Mitchell Markowitz, and I firmly believe that if he cannot respond to us in a timely fashion and give us the information that we need so we can progress, then we need to sit down with Mr. Markowitz and we need to come up with a plan, to get him to respond better to us.
All right, so July 17th is do you want to do July 10th? That's the special meeting? The week before?
Our never means the 4th of July. Vacation.
July 4th is the Wednesday before. This is the special, it's the second one.
I'm sorry.
When is he leaving?
The 14th,
When's he coming back?
7.
Well, you could either have it at the end of the month or the beginning of the month.
No.
When's he coming back?
July 10th.
Put it in the email
I know.
Did you wait?
July 10th should be fine.
What day is that, Bob?
It's on Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay.
What day?
July 10th.
July 10th?
You're presenting too much, you better get there, obviously.
I'm away that day. I'm away that day. Hope and I are going away that
Just a
day.
question of protocol.
Do we have
We're
court?
definitely not.
Does the town of Rye have court?
We have town clerk stuff, then we have a
I
conference.
don't know, I have to check.
Okay, so pending,
Court is usually, night court is usually Monday and
Monday
Thursday.
and Thursday, okay,
We
so
have
we
to-
should be good.
Pending
You
legislation.
haven't even do
Town
your
clerk.
conference.
Sorry, Mr. Mecca.
No problem.
So July 10th,
I know, we
can I get a month, what?
Is that an official change of meeting day?
No, no, no.
Not meet
No,
on
no,
17th?
Special meeting.
We're going to have a special meeting on Tuesday the 10th.
At what time?
How about the 11th? Does that have to be on a Tuesday? No, all right.
It's July 10th, so Tuesday, July 10th. What time? Do you have a conflict?
No, I can do it.
And
So
what
far.
time do we want to do, 7:30?
Well, this is just going to be a special meeting for the,
Yeah,
this
this
is.
is the only thing. 7:30?
7:30 works.
7 or 7 o'clock, what do you want?
Or 7.
I'm happy to do 7 o'clock.
No, it's fine with me.
All right, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock to come, and then I want to invite the press, the Chamber of Commerce. We need to do everything we can to get the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Arcaro. Get the Chamber of Commerce there. We should get as many officials, we should get officials from each of the schools there. We should get from each of the villages. You know, this, look, it's their money, most of this gets being taken. And so ultimately, they should be aware of what's going on.
So you, both villages, or
Sorry, sir.
He'll be right back. We can skip to, final report.
Okay, town attorney, Mr. Town Attorney, do you have anything
I've
else?
said more than enough.
We agree.
Anytime I
There's no
open my mouth, there'll be another
superintendent.
meeting scheduled, so I'm.
Where's our superintendent of highways tonight?
Superintendent of Highways is attending the graduation of one of his
All right,
children.
he's given us his report.
He has.
We'll read it. Anything in particular, I think we're good, yeah?
There's one issue that should be brought up, actually two. If you look at the South Avenue Bridge traversing Otter Creek,
Yeah.
the last paragraph there, apparently we've noticed that there are two large stones that have now been displaced on the north wall.
Right.
And the Continental Manor footbridge, there was some floating debris that knocked into the wall that dislodged another large stone. We are trying to see if we can just get them done under a repair item. Onum and Kirby is looking at it, and they will be back to us with a
How
recommendation.
many Kirby must love us?
Onum and Kirby has done well by us, yes.
I'm not saying they're not doing a good job, I'm just saying they.
Well,
Anyway,
you need to have an engineer look at these things, and
Yep.
the town doesn't have an in-house engineer.
Frank?
Yes.
So, Mr. Park Foreman?
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and Town Council. From May 15th to June 19th, project report, Wrightstown Park. My staff replaced the support beam at the north end cashier's booth with a new cement beam.
Oh, you don't need to read the whole thing, just
No.
any highlights, I
Oh,
think, Frank.
What we did was the Continental footbridge in Mamaroneck, I had my staff replace 4 boards that were cracked. Once we replaced the 4 boards, we stained the whole entire bridge. Now one of the neighbors from across the street came over, wants to donate some flowers or some plantings for the bridge. Bishop and I were talking, and we're talking this particular type of bush that we want to keep there to keep the people away from the rock wall. So I'm going to take care of that. Also down at Wrightstown Park, the contractor put in heavy-duty showers. So you know, we're moving right along. The second floor hallway at Crawford Park has been painted. That's all taken care of. Once the
Is the upstairs done?
the whole upstairs is finished,
Right.
Except
the
for
only-
floors.
except for the floors.
Floors.
There's 2 camp groups that are going to be using those rooms for the summer. So my staff is cleaning up the place, getting ready for the camp. And I met with the contractor the other day from Timberline. We've also been working with the Friends of Crawford Park, and we're keeping busy.
Good.
Well,
Thank
it's
you
a
for
good
the
question for the foreman. What obstacles are you seeing going into the season?
As of right now, we're moving forward. We have a clear picture of what we're going to do on the first floor now to repair. So we're making progress.
What obstacles are you anticipating?
Oh, the only obstacle right now
So
is for
do
the outside.
Do you have shortage of manpower? Are there projects that you're working on that you need expertise? Is there something that's large that you see that needs to be repaired that's out of your scope of work? Or
Well, right now, I've been talking to our caretaker, George, and we're going to be walking around the property, seeing what we need to do in-house of tree maintenance, other trees in the park. Also, the manpower is fine. Right now, the only obstacle is that we want to start working on the pavilion on certain areas, and the camp's starting soon, so we're going to try to work around that.
how are you? We're at the 6-month window here now. Do you know where you are with regards to your budget?
As of right now, on my budget, my staff and myself, we really haven't spent really any money.
What about overtime?
Overtime is to a minimum, and it's not approved until I speak to Bishop. So that's where it goes from there.
Okay, so what I'd like to see for next month, okay? If you're going to give us a report, give us a report of a higher caliber than next month. Let us know where you are as far as your budget. You're anticipating overtime. Some big things that are happening. Okay.
Okay.
Your reports are good, that you're giving us some information,
Mhm.
but this report from Mr. Mecca would say, you know, I met with 10 people today and they paid their taxes. We expect Mr. Mecca to do that.
Mhm.
So a lot of the stuff that you have here, we expect you to do.
Mhm.
So if you're going to give us a report, let's go to that next level now and give us something juicy.
Okay, that's
Thank
fine.
you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I have a quick question for you
Sure.
though. Who is responsible for communicating with this neighbor who has offered to kindly donate some plants and
Well, I'm
shrubbery?
gonna, when my
Is it you or
staff,
is it Bishop?
well,
Like,
my
who-
staff
okay.
told me about it, yesterday. When he talked to my staff, I was off that day. So he gave me his name and number. I'm gonna contact him and, go over his house and meet him. And then from there, I'm gonna talk to Bishop, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, just curious who's responsible for that, but that's very kind of them. Please send our thanks from the board. if everyone's okay
Maybe we
with
should
it.
make sure the supervisor's office sends a letter.
Yeah.
You're right.
Excellent idea. Thank you, Councilwoman Collins. Honorable Mr. Mecca, sorry for a delay. I
Thank you, Frank.
apologize. Thank you, Frank. Sorry for keeping you waiting.
I apologize for stepping
No.
out there,
No.
but above and beyond my control. I just want to alert everybody, if your property is in the village of Portchester or the village of Mamaroneck, I believe, and Rye Brook, it's time for the first installment of your village tax. Rye Brook, you get a yellow bill like this, so it's kind of easy for us to distinguish in the office. That's why they're different colors. Portchester gets a white bill. Now, there's only 10 days left because we're already here on the 20th, and we will accept the payments in person on July 1st because the 30th is on a weekend. Many people call and ask that. You can come into the office on the Monday, July 1st, and make your payment. Okay? Now, Mr. Noto and I have been working on that list, but there's one other point. As the coordinator of elections, Tuesday is primary.
Oh,
And if you are in District 16, you'll get a card from the Board of Election. The Methodist Church, the Summerfield Methodist Church at the conjunction of King Street and Willard Avenue is closed. You will have to vote at Don Bosco Center until another place can be located, but you will receive a notice from the Board of Election. Okay?
and so just on that, are people to vote in the normal place they normally vote then, other than?
Just that, and everyone else goes into the
And the
home
polls are open from what time to what time?
from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., so there's plenty of time.
Absentee ballots are available at Ten Pearl?
Applications for absentee
Absentee,
ballots, yeah, in their mail to the Board of Elections and the ballots.
Is there still time to do that?
You got, I think, probably the deadline is very quick, maybe tomorrow or the next day. So anybody that needs to, please move as quick as you can.
Great.
I think they're online too now, if you go onto the website from the Board of
What kind of turnout did we get for the presidential primary?
That was very low. I think we hit like maybe 12%.
It's well that high.
This one, no, because it's only the one, that was only Democrat, this is only Republican, so I don't even know. This is going to be very hard. Then the next one should hum, the presidential. That one should hum.
Well, it's not the next one, you still have.
Oh, no, we got another primary in September, right, so that one might be a little more because you have a little more local.
In fact, this year we will have had three
Three
primaries.
primaries.
The presidential in April, Congress and Senate, and is it just Republican primaries?
Because I believe it's only Republican candidate on this primary.
No,
I
Democrats,
believe.
Democrats are primaries in New York.
This
No,
one-
I mean, just in town
this
around
one-
here.
Not here, but there
Not
is,
here,
sure, but
In the
not
state,
here.
there are Democratic primaries as well.
Probably conservative, probably all the parties, but here, as far as Westchester County, I believe is only Republican. And the next one, there'll probably be more because you have more candidates in the September primary. Everybody getting ready for the big day in November, so.
There you go.
The
Okay, thank you.
September primary, the Tuesday falls on September 11th, and they changed the primary date to September 13th to Thursday, which is
So
quite
Thursday,
unusual.
September 13th is the Senate, yeah, exactly. So they have established that date. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you, Honorable Mr. Mecca. Mr. Arcaro.
Just two quick items of update on the Model American Community Project. One is not in front of you, which involves the summer internship. Bishop, help me if I go too far left or right. Our intention this year is to have a wonderful summer internship for approximately 6 high school students, in which the first part of their internship is focusing on characteristics and skills in being employed. And so we would, for a period of approximately a week, have the opportunity for the students to sharpen their skills on how to find a job, sharpen their skills about interviewing techniques, sharpen their skills about on-the-job skills. Then we will place them in the cooperation with Model American community organizations throughout the town. And then they will return in an evaluation of how their experience was, both from their point of view as well as from the organization's point of view. So those Model American community projects that have been participating would have the opportunity to have somebody help them during the summer, but also have the opportunity to help that person have a job experience, which is very valuable, we think, these days. That's in addition to the internship program that the town usually has, and in addition to an additional one, which is an offshoot of the Tools for Change, Dr. Bill Tobin coming up during the year, with some of his students volunteering their time to help the Model American communities with their social media. So one is directly with the Model American community, and the other is related to it. What you have in front of you is an update of the 42 organizations that have been interviewed. We thought it was about time to try to summarize what we've been finding. And you'll see that on the sheet called Tentative Community Indicators. On the basis of that, as we would probably expect, many of the communities in our town are focusing on service delivery, social services that people need, people want. But the next one is very interesting, that the second category there of youth, a tremendous interest in youth. And not only what youth are going to do, but what they're doing right now, their future as well as their present. And you can see some of the other issues that are on the minds of the organizations that we have interviewed. Following up on this, we were earlier thinking of having a meeting of these organizations and asking them to comment on the comments from these 40 organizations, inviting all 100. We thought we might be able to squeeze it in June, but after speaking with Council of Community Services, Dave Thomas, Alejandro Payan, we felt we were rushing it, and we're probably aiming for the middle of July, somewhere in there. But the idea being to have the groups come in, have them comment on the findings that we have so far, and probably saying on the basis of these findings, one of the projects that we feel will also be tremendously helpful in the school year would be possibly working with the Portchester school system towards making community service a requirement for graduation, involvement in the community. And so it seems to us that from the 40 organizations that we have met with, that is one of the strong interests, and that if that continues and is supported, moving ahead with the school district in Portchester to make that as a requirement. And then there's another wonderful project that we also think will coalesce many interests in the community, which is the Clay Arts Center. They have a wonderful mural. So we think that as a result of this meeting in July, there'll be 2 very concrete follow-up projects, the kind of information we've been having. A very also wonderful update is, as you know, we had met with the senior citizen groups and had met with the Portchester Head Start. Well, indeed, the volunteers from the 2 senior centers, I think, will be helping in the Portchester Head Start. So we're really happy.
Great, making progress. Congratulations, wonderful. Any questions, Mr. Arcaro?
No, this is impressive.
Thank you.
It's very good.
Thank you, Mr. Arcaro. I couldn't agree more. It's excellent, excellent. we may want to try and do that powwow after the next board meeting. We're going to meet on July
Good
10th,
idea.
on July 17th, so at least, so we should let people know. Beautiful, okay. Councilwoman Collins.
Actually wrote down my notes because I feel like when we get to the end of the meeting, I always forget everything I want to say. So
Okay.
first, I just want to thank Rhinebeck for opening its doors to us tonight. This was a great change of scenery. And thank everyone who's come out tonight over here to Rhinebeck. I wanted to congratulate Rydebrook on a successful celebration of their 20th anniversary.
30th.
It was held, 30th, I'm sorry, held at Crawford Park this past Saturday. I heard it was great. And also all the Memorial Day celebrations that took place throughout all our communities since our last meeting. Many of you may have noticed I've been using my iPad tonight, and I was asked by Dave Thomas if I would do a trial run on getting our packets with our agendas and our resolutions in digital format, and so that's why I was fiddling around with that. I said I'd be happy to volunteer that. And, it takes a little getting used to, but I'm happy to do it again next month, and I'd love to see us get away from the amount of paper that we go through and also the amount of staff resources that it takes to put them together and to deliver them. And I think that would be great to see in the future. And other than that, I'd just like to wish everybody a great kickoff to summer tomorrow. I hope this public all gets over to Rytown Beach at some point this summer for the fireworks and to enjoy that gem that is ours in Rytown. And happy summer, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Councilwoman Collins. Councilwoman Mendocino.
I just had a few questions. I'm going to ask the same question. Where is our report that we supposedly do in March from the town Dissolution, the study?
Okay, yep. Well, I was going to talk about that, Joe. Should I talk about it now?
If you'd like
I
to.
don't think it was due in March, but maybe it was March, April. We had a steering committee meeting with CGR about 2-3 weeks ago, and it was a very, very good meeting. And they're going to have a final report, I think, in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Basically, what they did is they met with us. There's two sets of findings. One is the dissolution of the town. And they're going to have specific recommendations and numbers for that, and they needed to sit down with us and say, do we want to go this route or that route? So we had that, and they'll come up, they're going to finalize the potential savings, or talk about what the potential savings would be, and what the cost and those kinds of things. So they had to meet with us to finalize that. So I expect that in the next 48 weeks, to be honest. It's complete. And then we'll meet with the public with their report. The second component of the report was the shared service component of the report. And that was the interesting thing. I fully appreciated. So they talk about areas where you can generate savings in the shared services. That's really a village-to-village activity, and there's nothing stopping the villages from doing it today. So that the villages, could, in anticipation of the town being dissolved, begin to pull things together. And that was sort of the most interesting thing that came out of the last meeting, and I want to talk to the board about, because this is important, is the proposed timeline once we get the report. And Bishop, I think they said August is when we're going to get the report, didn't they say it?
Somewhere this summer, yes.
Somewhere this summer. So somewhere this summer, we'll get the report. Once we get the report, then we're going to want to meet with the public. And I think that's probably, we're talking more like a September event.
Yeah.
By the time we do it, when people will be away from vacation. We can do it in the summer, but the word would be there wouldn't be. So more likely than that, we'll get the report, meet with the public in September. We take the feedback from the public, and they would finalize the report, is my understanding.
Yes.
Once they finalize the report, we then have a report, and it's up to us then, the steering committee, 3 boards, to do what they want. Now the question is, when do you bring, let's assume that the recommendation is to move forward, the public likes the idea, all 3 boards like the idea, each of the boards would have to vote on it. The question is, when do you put the vote to the public? And that's where, the timetable started to get stretched out. And this is what we can discuss this on the board. We want to come up with a solution tonight, but this is something for everybody to begin to think about. So you meet with the public in September. I don't know, the report gets finalized sometimes this fall, and then so it's too tight, the thing is, it's too tight to do anything this November in the 2012 presidential election. There's no way, you know, now, in Portchester, the whole board's up for vote in March. And so do you want to do it before that? Then the thought was it's probably difficult to do it before the March election in Portchester, and I think an April election in Rye Brook. So then the thought was, okay, then what's the next? So then the thought is, do you do a special election sometime in June, or do you go to November? And I think that'll be feedback from the public.
Well, are we definitely voting on something? Do we know that for sure?
No, I'm just trying.
First, we have to decide if we're
No, but I'm
anything forward.
right. But I'm simply. This is really relevant for us. So even if you move forward with the project, you know, when is the town ultimately going to be impacted? And that's why I just want to walk through this. Bishop, correct me if I get anything wrong.
Well, you missed one step, and that was that there would be multiple public hearings after the final report was issued, which that was where the real political problem was of the Portchester elections and so forth.
So, you know, I don't mean to cut you off, Bishop, but part of the problem that all municipalities have, aren't you glad you brought this up, Michelle? Part of the problem that all the municipalities have is that there's always going to be an election, okay? And if a decision or the opportunity to review a report like this that's going to impact all of these communities is always put off because there's an election, we're not going to get anywhere. I say, who cares about the election? Because if the decision is going to be in the best interest of the public, and it's the public's decision to see what they want. So having the public hearings and bringing the public in, the public's not up for election. Let them weigh in. Let's go forward.
Exactly. So that's why I'm bringing it up, because you're absolutely right, Deputy Supervisor Lenova. And in terms of, I just really want the board to begin to think through the process, because this is an informal conversation had at the steering committee level, and I think you're absolutely right. The public will provide us feedback as well. But I just wanted you to, so we'd have meet with the public, finalize the report, and have
When
further.
will we be able to actually see? When will we, as board members or the public, be able to have something concrete?
I think,
to
I mean,
discuss?
Town Attorney Noda, you correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is, you know, unfortunately, we tried to have, remember, a special meeting just for the board, and we were told we couldn't do it because of the public meeting.
Well, no, you can't
have
when the actual
report.
Anyway, so the report,
The
sorry,
report
the
is
report's
not
in August.
suitable for an executive session.
August.
So you
So
can
the
have a
report-
meeting to discuss the report, but it has to be a public meeting.
Right. So,
So
okay,
that's-
so the
but I
report.
think that it might be a little premature to be discussing potential referenda.
I just want to, no,
You want to read the report
no,
first.
no, it's not. It's not actually. It's not at all. Because you're managing a very difficult process, Town Attorney Noto. It's the potential dissolution of the town, right? And so we need to make decisions. Now, some of our decisions have been put off.
Unless the report says it doesn't recommend that.
I think we should wait to see what the report says.
Yes, and
I
then
just wanted
move
to
on
know
to
when it
the
would be
phase
ready.
Well,
No, I'm sorry. Well,
Yeah,
I'm just
in the back of your brain.
I want to go back to what Councilwoman Mendocino mentioned. When's the report going to be ready?
August.
And then, what Councilwoman Collins just said, what if there's nothing there?
Then
The
we have to go forward.
bottom line is, that report better have something there. Because there has to be, the only reason why we entered into this, and that most of us agreed to this report, is that there was going to be an actionable item. And I will be livid if there's no actionable item at the end of this report.
Okay, a couple of points. First of all, I don't know how you can be livid.
Joe,
Well,
we're spending all this money to try to make the municipalities better. There's so much in this opportunity. IMA, shared services, dissolution. If this report, if CGR can't touch on something that can change to better local government and better the communities, then they failed us.
No, well, I would disagree. And that's the point I'm trying to make. The first point is, what are the cost savings from the dissolution of the town? That's a complicated analysis, so I don't see how you can be livid about an objective analysis.
I'm not talking about
Well,
the
so-
dissolution.
Well, let's
That there
just-
has to be something.
Well, hold
There
on,
could
so
be-
let me just, so let's just
Go
take
ahead,
it
continue.
one step at a time. So if there are savings from dissolving the town, then there are savings and you presumably will move forward. If there are less savings than what is hoped for or anticipated, then you may not move forward with dissolution of the town. But that may or may not happen. It's impossible to
But he's
predict.
hoping for other things
We're-
in there
there-
that
there
would
should be other
for
things.
cost
Well,
savings.
Exactly,
and that's
Michelle.
why we're having this conversation today. And that was what was interesting and revelatory to me. They did propose a number of areas where shared services could generate significant savings.
And that's what we need.
Right, and that's gonna be in the report.
Perfect.
Not with the same level of detailed analysis, because that wasn't the report. But at the end of the day, the villages, you and I are not gonna determine whether the shared services move forward. The shared services, Mr. Terenzi and his board, Mayor Feinstein and her board, are ultimately the two groups that are gonna determine whether shared services. Now, the report will certainly highlight areas where shared services can significantly reduce expenditures. But we have no authority over what they do. What we're doing, in my view, is the carrot, if you will, is the dissolution of the town.
Right.
And when you dissolve the town, you need to pick up the town functions. And that's what I was trying to get to. And that's why I was really, what was a revelation to me is I'm going to want to now finish what I was trying to say initially in terms of the calendar, because I think that these are things that the board should be thinking about. So in any case, at some point in time, we'll get a report in August. That report will be presented to the public in September. The report will be finalized sometime this fall. The question then is, if it's conditioned, it's a PERC planning, one path this way, the other path that way. If it's decided by the three boards that it should be put to the public, the question then becomes, and that's where I want you thinking about, if it were to move forward, when do you want to have a vote on it? And you could have it any time after the report's finalized. But I just wanted to highlight to you and the people at home the various considerations that were discussed and ultimately will be discussed going forward. You have a March election where you have the mayor and the whole board up for re-election. Then you have mayor elections and some of the
And I
other.
think Billy
I'm
addressed
just gonna
that.
finish,
Go
I'm just
ahead.
gonna finish. So whenever you
I
do
have
it,
more things on my list if you're
Okay.
interested.
so the
I'll sign off on them.
the election, so anywhere, the election can take any place between finalization of the report in November next year. And then the other important point, and this gets to what you're talking about being livid, and the thing that was news to me was, let's for argument's sake, people decide to wait until the next election, till November 2013 to have the vote.
Right.
So they didn't want to have a special election. It could take place anytime, I think the reasonable time period, sometime between June and November 2013. Anyway, but what the important point is, Mr. Noda, please, is it, you're then going to have a year to execute. That's the other point I wanted to make. It will take a year to execute the program. And that is important. So effectively, that's why you're going to have the shared services. You're going to have, you can start today.
Right.
But once you decide where you want to go, you'll have 2 years to generate a community conversation around what the villages can do to share services. So you have a 7-0 board. I would have thought, to your point, Mr. Villanova, that the people electing the 7-0, new 7 people to represent them in Portchester have a huge opportunity to insist that they work hard to share services as the town dissolves. So ultimately, the savings that are going to be generated from this project are going to be determined by our board in conjunction with the board of Portchester and the board of Rye Brook. There's no doubt in my mind there's huge savings. We've talked about the Sandy Spring model, where they outsource the whole thing. Now that is executable. And you could begin, the reason I'm mentioning all this, you could begin to execute the Sandy Springs model, right, in 2013. And certainly as part of the execution, the following year of execution, you can begin to set all this up. So it's going to require intense coordination between the various boards, and ultimately, real, information sessions with the public. So the opportunity, in my view, has been created by the study, but the execution is going to be down to our board and the two other boards. But Neck is involved as well. But in other words, the sharing of services, given the fact it's not coterminous, is more difficult with Neck than it is with Portugal. Although you can envision Rye City getting involved. So sorry to be so long-winded, but basically the process is going to unfold over the course of the next 2 years if it goes forward. If it doesn't go forward, and done with the report. But if there's my sense is there's enough in the report and enough in the sharing of services potential that you can make sense. But that's going to require real coordination between the board of Portchester and really the board of Rye Brook and the town of Rye, and some creativity. And I certainly have and I think it's going to be a real community conversation, and it's going to be really the effectiveness of our local public officials, and some vision to take it forward. And so they'll provide the numbers on the dissolution and provide the direction on the shared services, but it's really going to be down to us, three boards to follow. Okay. So sorry, so long. I wanted to talk about that anyway. So, Bishop, did I miss anything?
No, I think you're right on target.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Secondly, I wanted to know if you could please check that you keep me on your email list, because it appears that everyone got a reminder email that the meeting was here this evening. I did not. So just check that I'm on the list.
Well,
You should be
that's
not on
I'm
the
terribly
same
sorry.
email list as the rest
Well,
of the
Mr. George
board.
must have missed it as well, then.
No, I got it.
I got it. Okay. Sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
We sent one. I insisted we sent one to the Rye Town Park Commission because I forgot.
It's my orders, by the way.
Barbara.
Okay, the next thing I wanted to ask is, last month I was in Hope's office and I needed to use her computer for something. And I could not even read the letters on the keys. Can we please get a new keyboard? She said, I said, can I use your computer for a second? I'm like, I'm not, I can't, there's not, it's all worn out, there's not a letter on it.
That's
Does
something.
it go by memory?
They're based on letters.
Yeah,
But that's something that, Hope as a department head, she should just go and get a computer keyboard. That's
if I could remind the board, part of the bond issue that you approved at the last meeting included some residual equipment. That computer equipment, we're going to be replacing Hope's machine along with a few others that are very
And
old.
for air conditioning.
That are very old, and that's part of that capital that you approved.
Well,
Well, I hope to get the air conditioning for the summer. That's good, I get one of those portable.
My next question is we have several defibrillators that we own, and they have to periodically be checked, recharged, pads replaced. I wanted to know if someone was following that.
No, but someone will.
In the past, the Portchester ambulance department, Scott Moore, has been kind enough, his staff, to do it for us, so
Okay.
I'm sure he'd be more than happy to do it. And then my last question, which I hope doesn't open up another can of worms, is have we made any decisions on what we're doing with our building at 10 Pearl Street? Because if we're not going to do anything with it, then I think we need to fix it up. We've had the assessment office closed down and boarded up, and we need to address the issue of either fixing or selling or what we're going to do with the building.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. It won't be a can of worms, I think, actually. But the other reason I mentioned that long, drawn-out process is because I, in the back of my mind at least, had been putting off some of these decisions, thinking that things were more imminent. And very clearly, they're not imminent. So I think what I, actually, I would like to see, if possible, at the special meeting, but if not, July 17th, and we need to move on this. You couldn't be more right. And I want a whole property analysis. We've been slow getting somebody in to help us on that, but I want to, could you present the properties we own on the July 10th meeting? And then we need to move forward on what we want to do with them. And I think, you know, I know exactly what I want to do. Obviously, the board has to make a decision on what they want to do as well.
Well, I think we remember the last time that we spoke about 10 Pearl Street, that you know, we were kind of headstrong and trying to take a lead from maybe this study, because if the study says, you know, the best cost savings, or one of the greater cost savings would be to dissolve the town, then no sense investing the money in 10 Pearl Street if we're going to dump it.
Right. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Sigmund. Councilman Ioris.
Where do we stand with the stairwells at Town Park?
We've put the job out to bid.
Crawford Park, sorry.
Crawford Park. We did put the job out to bid. As of right now, the bids are in the process of being evaluated by the architect. We are not very hopeful since the lowest bid came in at somewhere in the 90,000 range, well above what we had estimated and budgeted. I've asked the architect in her analysis of the bids to also perhaps identify opportunities that the specifications could be modified to lower costs. We are hoping to get that analysis in the next couple of weeks. The reality here is we will probably have to reject all of these bids, and rebid the job.
No. Well, I want to do two things. I mean, this is it's insanity again. The only reason we're doing this is because of fire regulations. And, you know, for us to spend $90,000 because of fire regulations, I would like to see a report from the fire department and see if they can come up with, in addition to, you know, reviewing these bids, I want to get a report. I want to have either an insurance company or the fire department work with us to come with a low-cost solution. I mean, we heard about these rope ladders that you can put in for insurance purposes. You know, no one wants to have a horrific accident there, but I mean, this house is no different than any home in all of Westchester.
Well, no, the difference is that it would ultimately be a place of public assembly. And, you know, and once we have people renting on the second floor, it's different than a residential home. So I tend to lean towards where Mr. Nowotnik's going with rejecting bids, having the architect review the scope and rebid, put out another RFP. That may be one of the better solutions.
I don't have a problem doing that. I think you're right, Deputy Supervisor Zenton, but I like it in parallel.
Oh, you have to get a better idea.
I want to see if you know, there's not another solution.
We did get.
It's a slippery slope. You know, it's a $20,000 project, it's a $30,000 project, it's a $60,000. That's a $90,000.
We were sitting at 70, correct?
We started out, in deference to the supervisor, we did start out roughly around the $40,000 range,
right.
And we then settled on approximately 70, 75, which
right.
is what the architect had projected for us.
Okay.
And we were shocked when the lowest bid came in at about $98,000.
And I think the supervisor is asking for that report from the insurance company, and they gave us that report once before.
Certainly we can resurrect that report.
So we can just resurrect that report until we get the insurance right away.
That's easy to do.
The insurance company already gave us a report.
Who was insisting that we have the fire escape?
The insurance company had indicated that if you had occupancy on the second floor, you required a second form of egress. The only second form of stairway we have there is the butler stairway, which is that little circular stairway, which is not legal